Hello and welcome to day 77 of the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan. Today we'll be reading Judges chapters 19 to 20, still using the New Revised Standard Version, the updated edition.
Just before we begin today's reading, so I'll cut this part and put it in front. Just before we begin today's reading, we should give the disclaimer that the content is quite gruesome and brutal and is worth having a heads up. It involves issues around rape, gang rape, murder, and of course a lot of violence. So to put that in context before you begin to read. Chapter 19. In those days there was no king in Israel. A certain Levite residing in the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim took to himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But his concubine became angry with him, and she went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there some 4 months. Then her husband set out after her to speak tenderly to her and bring her back. He had with him his servant and a couple of donkeys. When he reached her father's house, the young woman's father saw him and came with joy to meet him. His father-in-law, the young woman's father, made him stay, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank, and he stayed there. On the 4th day, they got up early in the morning, and he prepared to go. But the young woman's father said to his son-in-law, "Fortify yourself with a bit of food, and after that you may go." So the two men sat and ate and drank together, and the young woman's father said to the man, "Why not spend the night and enjoy yourself?" When the man got up to go, his father-in-law kept urging him until he spent the night there again. On the 5th day, he got up early in the morning to leave. And the young woman's father said, "Fortify yourself and linger until the day declines." So the two of them ate. When the man with his concubine and his servants got up to leave, his father-in-law, the young woman's father, said to him, "Look, the day has worn on until it is almost evening. Spend the night. See, the day has drawn to a close. Spend the night here and enjoy yourself. Tomorrow you can get up early in the morning for your journey and go home."
But the man would not spend the night. He got up and departed and arrived outside Jebus, that is Jerusalem. He had with him a couple of saddled donkeys, and his concubine was with him. When they were near Jebus, the day was far spent, and the servant said to his master, "Come now, let us turn aside to this country of the Jebusites, and spend the night in it." But his master said to him, "We will not turn aside into a city of foreigners, who do not belong to the people of Israel, but we will continue on to Gibeah." Then he said to his servant, "Come, let us try to reach one of these places, and spend the night at Gibeah or at Ramah." So they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. They turned aside there to go in and spend the night at Gibeah. He went in and sat down in the open square of the city, but no one took them in to spend the night.
Then at evening there was an old man coming from his work in the field. The man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was residing in Gibeah. The people of the place were Benjamites. When the old man looked up and saw the wayfarer in the open square of the city, he said, "Where are you going? And where do you come from?" He answered him, "We are passing from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, from which I come. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to my home. Nobody has offered to take me in. We have straw and fodder for our donkeys, with bread and wine for me and the woman and the young man along with us. Your servants need nothing more." The old man said, "Peace be to you. I will care for all your wants, only do not spend the night in the square." So he brought him into his house and fed the donkeys. They washed their feet and ate and drank.
While they were enjoying themselves, the men of the city, a perverse lot, surrounded the house and started pounding on the door. They said to the old man, the master of the house, "Bring out the man who came into your house, so that we may have intercourse with him." And the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, "No, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Since this man is my guest, do not do this vile thing. Here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. Let me bring them out now, ravish them, and do whatever you want to them. But against this man, do not do such a vile thing." But the men wouldn't listen to him. So they seized the concubine and put her out to them. They wantonly raped her and abused her all night until the morning. As the dawn began to break, they let her go. As morning appeared, the woman came and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was until it was light.
In the morning, her master got up, opened the doors of the house, and when he went out to go on his way, there was the woman, his concubine, lying at the door of the house, with her hands on the threshold. "Get up," he said to her, "we are going." But there was no answer. Then he put her on the donkey, and the man set out for his home. When he had entered his house, he took a knife, and grasping his concubine, he cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout all the territory of Israel. Then he commanded the men whom he sent, saying, "Thus shall you say to all the Israelites, has such a thing ever happened since the day that the Israelites came up from the land of Egypt until this day? Consider it, take counsel, and speak out."
Chapter 20. Then all the Israelites came out from Dan to Beersheba, including the land of Gilead, and the congregation assembled in one body before the Lord at Mizpah. The chief of all the people and of all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 foot soldiers bearing arms. Now the Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone to Mizpah, and the Israelites said, "Tell us, how did this criminal act come about?" The Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered, "I came to Gibeah that belongs to Benjamin, hire my concubine, to spend the night. The lords of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house at night. They intended to kill me, and they raped my concubine until she died. Then I took my concubine and cut her into pieces and sent her throughout the whole extent of Israel's territory, for they have committed a vile outrage in Israel. So now, you Israelites, all of you, give your advice and counsel here."
All the people got up as one, saying, "We will not any of us go to our tents, nor will any of us return to our houses. But now this is what we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. We will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 of 10,000, to bring provisions for the troops who will go to repay Gibeah of Benjamin for all the disgrace that they have done in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered against the city, united as one.
The tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What crime is this that has been committed among you? Now then, hand over those scoundrels in Gibeah, so that we may put them to death, and purge the evil from Israel." But the Benjamites would not listen to their kinsfolk, the Israelites. The Benjamites came together out of the towns of Gibeah to go out to battle against the Israelites. On that day, the Benjamites mustered 26,000 armed men from their towns, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who mustered 700 picked men. Of all this force, there were 700 picked men who were left-handed. Every one of them could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. And the Israelites, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 armed men, all of them warriors.
The Israelites proceeded to go up to Bethel, where they inquired of God, "Which of us shall go up first to battle against the Benjaminites?" And the Lord answered, "Judah shall go up first."
Then the Israelite got up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. The Israelite went out to battle against Benjamin, and the Israelite drew up the battle line against them at Gibeah. The Benjaminites came out of Gibeah and struck down on that day 22,000 of the Israelites. The Israelites went up and wept before the Lord until the evening. And they inquired of the Lord, "Shall we again draw near to battle against our kinsfolk, the Benjaminites?" And the Lord said, "Go up against them." The Israelites strengthened themselves and again formed the battle line in the same place where they had formed it on the first day.
So the Israelites advanced against the Benjaminites the second day. Benjamin moved out against them from Gibeah the second day and struck down 18,000 of the Israelites, all of them armed men. Then all the Israelites, the whole army, went back to Bethel and wept, sitting there before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening. Then they offered burnt offerings and sacrifices of well-being before the Lord. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, ministered before it in those days, saying, Shall we go out once more to battle against our kinsfolk the Benjaminites, or shall we desist? The Lord answered, Go up, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand.
So Israel stationed men in ambush around Gibeah. Then the Israelites went up against the Benjaminites on the third day and set themselves in array against Gibeah as before. When the Benjaminites went out against the army, they were drawn away from the city. As before, they began to inflict casualties on the troops along the main roads, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, as well as in the open country, killing about 30 men of Israel. The Benjaminites thought, They are being routed before us as previously. But the Israelites said, Let us retreat and draw them away from the city towards the roads. The main body of the Israelites drew back its battle line to Baal-Tamar, while those Israelites who were in ambush rushed out of their place west of Geba. There came against Gibeah 10,000 picked men out of all Israel, and the battle was fierce. But the Benjaminites did not realize that disaster was close upon them.
The Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and the Israelites struck down 25,100 men of Benjamin that day, all of them armed.
Then the Benjaminites saw that they were defeated.
The Israelites gave ground to Benjamin because they relied on the troops in ambush that they had stationed against Gibeah. The troops in ambush rushed quickly upon Gibeah. Then they put the whole city to the sword. Now the agreement between the main body of Israel and the men in ambush was that when they sent up a cloud of smoke out of the city, the main body of Israel should turn in battle. But Benjamin had begun to inflict casualties on the Israelites, killing about 30 of them. So they thought, surely they are defeated before us, as in the first battle. But when the cloud, a column of smoke, began to rise out of the city, the Benjaminites looked behind them, and there was the whole city going up in smoke toward the sky. Then the main body of Israel turned, and the Benjaminites were dismayed, for they saw that disaster was close upon them. Therefore they turned away from the Israelites in the direction of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and those who came out of the city were striking them down in between. Surrounding the Benjaminites, they pursued them from Noah and trod them down as far as a place east of Gibeah. 18,000 Benjaminites fell, all of them courageous fighters. When they turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, 5,000 of them were cut down on the main roads, and they were pursued as far as Gidom, and 2,000 of them were slain. So all who fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 arms-bearing men, all of them courageous fighters. But 600 turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and remained at the rock of Rimmon for 4 months. Meanwhile, the Israelites turned back against the Benjaminites and put them to the sword, the city, the people, the animals, and all that remained. Also, the remaining towns they set on fire. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
In this couple of chapters, we see a very perplexing story about a Levite and his concubine. In chapter 19, we learnt of how the Levite went to pick up the concubine from her father's house, and after a series of delays at the father-in-law's house, they eventually set out on the journey, and then they came to Gibeah eventually, expecting to receive some hospitality from the public square, which would be the place where strangers would go to, and according to the laws of God, the people are meant to welcome strangers. Eventually, one man comes along and takes them in, but no sooner had he done that than the people of Gibeah, just like in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, in the encounter of Lot, they came and they banged on the man's door, wanting him to bring out the man so that they could have homosexual relations with him. Eventually, they drew out the woman instead and gang raped her brutally till she was left for dead till morning. Eventually, the man got back to his home and then divides the woman's body into 12 and sends it each to every tribe in Israel. That led eventually in chapter 20 to a battle between the tribe of Benjamin and the other tribes. And the details of the battle was given in chapter 20. Initially, it felt like Benjamin was winning, And then eventually they resorted to employing something similar to the tactic Joshua used in conquering Ai, in setting an ambush. And that was eventually how they got the Benjaminites, and lots of them fell in their thousands. And that is the story in the couple of chapters we have read. So chapter 19, what stood out to you?
First thing that stood out to me was why a Levite would have a concubine. So the woman was referred to as his concubine. And throughout the narrative of chapter 19, the Levite was portrayed as a very sensible person, hospitable, level-headed. He was entreated to stay once, he stayed again, then he left. Therefore, his behavior at the end of chapter 19, when the incident happened with her where she was raped, was quite interesting. In that he was the one who thrust her out. While the host was still talking to the man, he, the Levite, thrust his own concubine out to the man. And what really shocked me mostly in the narration is that he rose up the next day. How can you sleep when you know your concubine has been raped outside? He rose up the next day as though he didn't even have any care about what happened to the concubine. Opened the door, saw her. You've seen a woman who has been raped all night. And the word he said to her was quite chilling. Get up.
Get up, we are going.
Bitibawo, so I'm speaking Yoruba. Hazao. There was no compassion. There's no, are you okay? Get up. And then the way it was written, how he put her on the donkey, was as though she was a piece of clothing. Then he put her on the donkey, whether or not she replies, whether or not she's unconscious or dead, whether or not she needs tending or hospital. Nothing is, she doesn't, we're not told he cared about all of that. Because there was no answer, he put her on the donkey and he set for his home. Remember someone that's been brutally, assaulted, now being on a donkey on an uneven road. The double of that pain, if she's still alive. We don't know if she was still alive at the time he put her on the donkey or when he got home. Then he got home and then started to cut her into 12 pieces, telling his servant to tell them to speak out. That really made me feel furious. In that, he told the servant to take the limbs all over Israel and tell them to speak out. But you did not speak out for her. You chose your own life for her life. And now you're blaming the people who did that for them to speak up. A person was like when in chapter 20, when he was talking about the concubine, it was as though he was the aggrieved person, as though he was the victim. But in my view, he was a culprit or part of the problem, in a sense. But now that I've read my personal readings to it, holistically, I can see that this incident happened so that to bring a form of restabilization to the Israelites, of them stopping to do what is right in their own eyes, but then turning to God. Because it's from chapter 20 that we saw the Israelites turn back to God. Firstly, they asked of God. God said, Judah should go first. And then they were defeated. And they came again and said, God, should we go? God said, yeah, go up. Go up against them. And the third time, and they were defeated the second time. But on the third occasion, before they asked God whether or not to go up against the Gibeonites and the Danites, they did the right thing. They followed protocol. They made sacrifices and then inquired of God. And then God said, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand. And so when it's been read holistically, we can see the lesson there. Yes.
It doesn't make it any easier to read.
It doesn't.
And just to say, of course, it's okay to read passages like this and just feel like, what's going on here? And have all manner of questions that you don't necessarily have immediate answers to, and there are no easy answers to these questions.
True.
it's easy to just say, yeah, all of this thing is just portraying the fact that in those days there was no king and people did whatever they wanted or whatever they liked or whatever they thought was right in their own eyes, as an easy explanation for all this, but it doesn't resolve the multifaceted layers of tension in the narrative, and it's okay to wrestle with the text like that. But yeah, it's pretty much just painting how darker and darker and darker it got in those days when there were no kings, and when eventually the people would have judges, and even after the successes of each judge, there would still be eventually a generation that would arise and still return back to these days of darkness. Yeah. And indeed, if any aspect of today's reading has brought some unpleasant memories to anyone, just praying for restoration. We're praying for healing.
Amen.
And we're praying for you to just feel the love of God much more than we could possibly argue for or convince you about, that the Comforter will comfort you.
Amen.
And that the unfolding story will eventually put things in perspective one way or the other.
Amen.
Yeah. Tomorrow we bring the book of Judges to a close as we read the final chapter in that book on day 78. Join us again. We'll be switching translations as well, and we look forward to having you with us. But till then, just remember,
you're not alone
today.
God bless you.